audience who are teens may not actually know the definition of identity. What is identity to you?
Well, that's a great question, Adam. Let me turn it around to you and just ask you, when you hear that term, what does that bring up inside of you?
You know, I think identity is who you are as a person, your inner self, how you feel, your emotions, you know, who you are. I think that's identity. That's your identity.
Well, that's a beautiful definition. That's one of the best definitions of identity I've heard. You know, the next book I'm writing is actually all about this issue of like, what is the self and what is identity and what does it mean to belong either to your body or to your family or to a group of friends or a group you might identify with, a religious group, a cultural group, an ethnic group, a racial group. So identity has many layers to it. And the first to begin with is exactly what you said. You know, what's our internal sense of who we are? So what's interesting about that is we can learn about our identity from our inner experience, but we also can be told that by signals from the outside world. So people may say, oh, you're a boy or you're a girl. But for some people, they actually don't like that binary division. And so for them, they're not binary. They're not just boy or girl. And so for them, the identity of their gender is not male, female. And for people who are, I'm definitely a male, I'm definitely a female, they may get confused by that and say, oh, no, your identity must be male or female. So there's an example where your body's configuration may make you think you're supposed to be male or female. The cultural messages you get is there's a boys' room and a girls' room, but actually your internal sense of who you are, your identity, maybe I'm not male and I'm not female, and I want a gender neutral bathroom to go to. I don't want to have to go to what the sign says. So this is where identity becomes extremely important. And of course, on our planet, identity becomes important because if someone says, I'm religion A and I hate you, you're religion B, I'm going to kill you. Many of the wars that we see are based on identity. And human beings are a very unique species in that we will fight to the death for our beliefs. And beliefs are often shaped by our identity. And that's a very important both vulnerability and strength of our species, is that belief and identity are super important.
And like finding yourself, like you just said, is a big part of finding your identity. And finding your identity might cause someone stress, a lot of emotion, to really find yourself. Like, how is health related to a sense of self?
Well, that's such a great question. You know, so we're talking about identity, we're talking about a sense of self, and we're talking about health. So some of the research, for example, on adolescence by a wonderful researcher named Susan Harter, Harter, has shown that there are like 3 developmental phases of adolescence. The early phase, like let's say from about 11 or 12 to around 13, 14, 15, that's so the beginning of adolescence, which is somewhat the beginning of teenage years, but it starts a little earlier than the teens. That early phase, people start experiencing very different identities. Like, you know, I have one identity with my family. I have one sense of self or identity with my friends. I have a volleyball team I'm on, and I'm one way with them, and I'm in a math club, and I'm one way with those kids. And I have these very different identities, very different senses of self. So we're using those kind of interchangeably. And I can belong then to each of those groups, but I can't really find a way to deal with the conflicts among them. Then in the second phase, the middle of adolescence, like 14, 15 to around 18, 17, 18, right? Because adolescence actually goes into the middle to late 20s. So these mid to late teen years are called middle adolescence. There, what you see is adolescents start to realize I've got a conflict. I really love playing volleyball, but I love being on the drama club, you know, and my drama friends don't like the volleyball friends. The volleyball friends don't like the drama friends, but I like them both. but they want me to choose sides, and only one is having a party tonight and the other's not going, or what do I do? And the two parties are the same night, and oh my God, you know. So there's this conflict across yourselves, because we always have a multiple layers. People use the word a multiplicity, or we're a multitude is this beautiful term. So we're never just one self. There's many aspects of ourselves, or parts of ourselves, or I call them self-states. So I have a drama self-state and a volleyball self-state. They're both important to me, but they're in conflict. And that's the middle period. And then what Susan Harder showed was that in late adolescence, so 17, 18 and on, how you come to recognize these conflicts across different self-states, different parts of you, and then resolve those conflicts is directly related to how healthy you are. So people who can't identify those different aspects and name them and find ways to deal with, how do I realize I have a priority here, and I can be a part of my family and also a part of my friends and not reject any of those are the kids who are the healthiest.